All right. So very quickly, we've all been experimenting or indulging in using generative AI, whether that's for our personal space or whether that is for our organization. And we've seen that generative AI has a good trajectory and people are moving in that direction to adopt generative AI within the organizational gamut of things. And while they're doing that, so Indrajit, I'm going to start with you. To understand, what according to you could be the potential derivatives of implementing generative AI within an organization to actually drive innovative outcomes?
Okay. Yeah, I'm coming from a financial sector. Like what Drew said, it's a highly regulated industry. But within that, when you look at the derivatives, we see in many areas where you get the derivatives, like in the most common cases that we see in the area that is immediately impacted is the customer services, where from the initially we had the chatbots, AI-powered chatbots that are basically interacting with the customers. Now it has come to with the generative AI, the contact centers, the agents are getting real-time feedback, real-time orchestration of their conversations based on the feedback given by the generative AI. It will analyze the sentiment, then predict or prompt the next question to keep the conversation in such a manner that the customer will feel important. And if the customer is stressed, that would reduce the stress level of the customer. So that type of insights are on in real-time basis being given to the contact center agents. That's on the customer servicing aspect. Then on running a banking or financial sector, the risk is very important because, there are various pillars of risks that impact the business. And, when you're dealing with the hard-earned money of the individuals, you have to be very mindful of that and to safeguard it when you're doing your operations. So the part that the generative AI can help in, bringing this risk management more efficient is by generating enough and more training data sets that are more fine-tuned, more which would reflect the market conditions. Thereby, it will help you to fine-tune your risk management models. So that way, you're managing your operations very well. Then on the other side is the content creation side. The marketing, going to the market, you're bringing in when you automate and use generative AI for content creation or visuals creation part, it will improve your time to market, improve your response times. So you're more agile and more responsive to the market. Then if I move on to the innovation side, the innovation is really impacted by generative AI mainly because, generative AI is like having somebody with so many specialists in so many areas with MBAs and specializations with you, whereby at the disposal of all the entire staff. If you deploy the generative AI models in a secure manner to everyone, so that will basically elevate their level to such a level. Like I would say, the innovation will become democratized, where these inputs will assist everyone in innovating. So
that's actually quite brilliant. With the kind of models that generative AI has in place, yes, it automates a lot of manual tasks for people to actually be innovative and creative within their own breadth. That's a brilliant takeaway there. Coming to you, Kasan, and what I would like to understand is that, within the organization, we already have certain set processes, set strategies that we actually, use to elevate performance or measure the performance that usually the processes are deriving. How do you seamlessly integrate generative AI models on top of these? What strategies could an organization follow?
Yeah, so before moving into that question, actually, I want to highlight a few things, three things basically. So now, first of all, we have to understand these AI natives are about to step into the industry. AI natives in the sense that we already have university students, or rather college students, right, who already have exposure to AI. Right? So then the system need to be changed on this evaluation. So then we have to keep that in mind. And also, according to me, this is the biggest technology leap since social media. So this could be a life-changing experience as well. So then coming back to your question, so there's an important part which I would like to highlight at the end, but First point is that it should be a collaborative approach where we have to ensure or make sure that we have delivered the solution for the exact problem. So then business or domain experts and AI specialists need to work collaboratively. So that is one strategy that we have to use, that we should do. Right? So this first thing, the second thing is identify strategic objectives, right? There may be process automations, there may be enhancing creativity, and also that is something, the process or automation from the factory point of view. So you have to first define the strategic objective clearly without knowing or without focusing on what problem actually that you're going to resolve. So if you're going to step into AI without setting up these strategic goals, then you are nowhere there, right? So then the other approach is that it should be an stepwise approach where you have to do some pilot projects or small scale projects as the first step, and then you can deploy it for the rest of the things. But the most important part is data integrity, right? So we were talking about all the things or all the innovatives or innovations that we can bring into the business from the morning. But what I strongly believe is that we should have the data integrity. It means a kind of a seamlessly integrated and accessible data ecosystem should be there, right? So we have a lot of data. Currently also every organization has a lot of data. So they have data, but that integrity between those data sources and the accessibility is matter, right? So that should be there for sure. Without that, we can't even think about moving further with AI or generative AI, whatever, right? So that is the most important area that we have, because for a company, there cannot be multiple database administrators, right? So it should be one. It should be single point, right? So that is the most important part I want to highlight in this strategic point of view.
Can I add to what he said?
Yes, please.
So I think, in terms of the question you asked is, how do you seamlessly integrate your generative AI with your other platforms, right? I think, let me put it down in steps. I think the first step is assuming that there's a lot of data which gets generated in your, it could be your digital core systems, which is your SAPs, ERPs, CRM, SEMs, whatever it is, right? And your digital platforms and so on. I think it's important to, first step is to identify what data is going to really add value. Identify that data first. The second step is consolidate that data and then try to put that into a large language model. The reason why I'm saying this is we have to do this on a selective basis and not on a random basis, is that generative AI is going to be an expensive affair because it's all based on tokens and so on, right? And it's also important for us to recognize the fact that it's also very heavily compute heavy intensive, correct? It consumes a lot of compute power, and hence data centers, today you talk of, they say one prompt that you give to ChatGPT consumes some 500 liters of water for your data center cooling. So those are the considerations that we will have to keep, the environmental considerations, the cost considerations, for you to decide what needs to be and what is worth, which are those ideal candidates that can really add a lot of value to the business, that can get on to the generative AI platform. And then the next step is to create those bridges or pipelines for you to automatically, pump those data into those large language models and then continuously train those models, and which is going to be quite expensive, I would say, exorbitant.
Yeah, I want to add one thing, because we were talking about strategy. So whatever the thing that we are doing through AI or whatever, so we have to align with the company strategy as well, and we have to reassess frequently. And also these AI technologies or models are advancing very frequently. So then we have to reassess and bring the new technologies in. Otherwise, that will be AI or generative AI will not be a force to improve the business. So that is also an important point that we have to mention.
Yeah, can I add something to it? That when you're deploying this type of new technologies into the existing environment, you need to have the change management process also, a robust change management process, whereby these AI technologies are going to threaten people. So you need to have managed their expectations, and they need to believe that it is augmenting them rather than challenging them. And of course, you have to look at the scalability because okay, when you put it in place, your success can kill your product. So you have to manage those scalabilities and the change management and the people's expectations around it.
Absolutely. So what you see from their responses is the development of a framework or a blueprint of sorts. If we put together every input that has come in by now of seamlessly integrating it, the first step, like Kasun also highlighted and Vian also highlighted, is to get your data right. And from whatever source the data comes, have it all streamlined and of course prioritize the data and what needs to go onto the generative AI versus what doesn't. And then of course the considerations of the compute and everything that goes into it. So it's a mixed bag of sorts that's going to get us where each organization wants to get. And that's a brilliant blueprint in development. Should we have this discussion for the next 2 hours, we'll give you a nice, framework to just replicate within each of them. I like the direction where this is going into. But now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. And what each of our organizations is actually trying to do is to leverage the power of data-driven decision making. And while this is all hyped about and spoken about, in reality, how much of it is happening and what exactly needs to be done to get into that direction is what I'm going to delve into through the next set of questions. So Vian, let's begin with you. And from the perspective of AI-generated content and AI-generated insights, how exactly do AI-generated insights actually influence strategic decision-making?
I think, let me step back to say, I used to, always visualize the day where you have the senior management leaders, right, conducting. It could be the head of marketing or the head of manufacturing or whoever it is, right, in the manufacturing industry, conduct a meeting. To what extent do they really use data and then depend on data is a matter of debate. In some matured organizations, probably, there's more of data being used and so on. But I used to visualize and tell my team that, guys, one day I visualize a scenario where you have a smart speaker, like an Alexa or a Google or whatever it is. And then the leader who's conducting a review, he is not looking at any PowerPoint presentations or any of those dashboards, Tableau dashboards or whatever it is. He's only asking questions to that Alexa, right? And saying, Alexa, or equivalent of that I'm saying, can you give me what is the comparison of this model sales versus the competitor in this particular territory and blah, blah, blah and all that. And he starts getting information from that. But just imagine, now with the generative AI, this only gets turbocharged. It is getting enriched in terms of the kind of depth to which you can get into. And I was saying, so the organization to use the full power of generative AI should learn the art of asking questions. The more you ask questions, right, the more deeper insights you can get from these generative AI systems. So I'm very eagerly looking forward to the day where I'm saying there could be a paradigm change and a shift in the way management decisions are taking, strategic decisions are taken. Chief Strategy Officer will depend a lot on all this, and he wonderfully was articulating in terms of how it's going to drive innovation and so on. So decision making, the way decisions are made, the depth of the decisions, the quality of decision making is going to significantly improve using generative AI. And this is not confined to only the management team, but also the board. Yes. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah, okay. So let me add a few points on that, right? So especially for manufacturing industry, because I've been for manufacturing industry now for 15 years. So especially for manufacturing industry, so understanding the customer and personalization is pretty much important. And the, generative AI is the only tool where we can use to do that. Because now, when you're talking about converting customers from one product to another, right, so understanding the consumer is challenging, where it is pretty much difficult to get consumer data or consumer preferences to a system, right? So it is not just entering data to the system. So, but they always go to the social media and they do a lot of activities there. So if we can collect all this data and analyze, do a consumer 360 kind of an analysis, so that is where the strategic decision making will turn over, right? So because that is the point, because companies invest a lot on R&D to understand what would be the customer preference. So that is the base that they are designing their products. But that is where we can use generative AI to make the change.
Sure.
Continuing from there, generative AI made it possible for us to crunch large amount of data in very short period of time, because that was a technical challenge that all of the IT people were faced with when you're trying to do analytics in the traditional way. So this enables you to identify the niches, the areas where the needs where the customers are having, yet it is not being fulfilled by any of the competitors, where you can identify the niches and develop your products and product strategies around it. And then when you acquire customers, the next part is, how do you manage the risk? Like I mentioned earlier, the risk management can be fine-tuned using generative AI, and those inputs can be taken into the board level when you are taking decisions. Then the other part is, okay, you have the right customers, you have the right processes and the risk management. Next is, how do you make it profitable? How do you manage your costs? How do you manage your expenses, the overheads? So for that, you can again use generative AI to get those data input in and analyze and find out the points where you can fine tune it and better run the organization.
Just to add a word of caution, in my view, don't use generative AI to make decisions. Use generative AI to help you to make decisions. That is, you have to make the decision. The reason is, on the lighter side, Kanchi, the day Bishan Singh Bedi, our great Indian spinner, died, a few days back he passed away. I went to Google Bard and then asked Google Bard, who are the players who are still alive? Those players who played in 1970, India, West Indies, and India won those series against the West Indies. I asked how many players who were there as part of that team are still alive. And Google Bard killed even Sunil Gavaskar also. I was shocked, right? So, take it with a pinch of salt. Use generative AI for helping you to make decisions and not to make decisions.
It's like the classic,
Yeah.
definitely, it's like a classic management theory, that consultative decision making. Consult others for decision and make it yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, Indrajit, you were adding to, were you saying something? No. Okay, perfect. So, within this entire articulation and that we've touched upon here in this conversation so far, each of us have touched upon the risk element of the data that we put on the generative AI models and the associated outcomes as well. So my next question to you is, and each one of you can take it up, what are the risks that an organization should be wary of while deploying these generative AI models? And what can proactively be done to mitigate these risks?
Yeah, one of the first risks that you see is all these generative AI, if you're not going on the public model, but you're going on the enterprise model, is that it relies on the data set that you use it to train. So if your data set might have biases, might have discrepancy or discriminatory nature. So that can come into your model, and that thereafter it can become generalized. So thereby discriminating people. That is one. So for the mitigative action you have to do is you have to constantly look at the model and see whether there are biases, anomalies taking place. Plus, you have to make sure that when you take a training data set, it's more representative, more balanced, and you need to vet and you have a larger set of data.
Absolutely.
And the other part is when you put in a lot of customer data, anonymized or de-anonymized, then again you have the privacy and data security risks that are coming out. So you have to take the maximum measures to protect this information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there will be ethical concerns as well. The ethical concerns in the sense, ethical concerns and data privacy and data security, as Indrajit mentioned, and also over-reliance. Right? So there should be a clear demarcation between human and generative AI decision making. Right? So as an example, if you raise the same question in different manner to ChatGPT, so you will get different answers. So the creativity still lies on the person who's operating the computer. So it is not, companies cannot depend 100% on generative AI-based decisions. And also, as I earlier mentioned also, long-term viability. So how we can update frequently these AI generated or AI systems and keep these systems up to date with upcoming technologies. So how we can shift or how we can upgrade these systems. So that is also one thing. And also we have to make sure we are not going to use sensitive data to train AI models, right? So that is also a critical thing that we have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
If you consider consumption of data and consumption of information is very similar to consumption of food. You can't go to a marriage and then 2 days marriage you have lunch, breakfast, lunch, Vinod, and then dinner also. And next day also again, 2-day marriage. What will happen to your stomach? Indigestion? So similarly, my thought is, with so much of information and very, very rich insights and all that, will the generative AI system lead to kind of an indigestion, right? That has to be, I think, thought of. The second is, with so much of democratization of data, which probably generative AI will kind of facilitate and help, but will this lead to good data falling in the wrong hands? So with all those access controls and all that which we have currently, will we have a problem in controlling the access of information related to an organization, right? Even within the organization itself, right? Not all information need to be shared with all the people in the organization, right? But will this have, I don't know, it's just a food for thought. Will we have a problem in terms of ensuring that we will have the right access controls with all these things when you're talking of internal? The second is on the external, especially when you're putting your company's data into maybe a chat GPT or whatever it is, right? That's going public. How do you control that? While you're going to get some rich insights because you're going to get some comparisons and benchmarking and so on and so forth. But your data has gone there. For example, I want to interpret my balance sheet. I put that balance sheet even before it is published, assuming, right, into ChatGPT and ask it to interpret the balance sheet for me. Now that's gone. That data is gone for you. It's there public. And what happens is the constant learning process of that large language model, yes, it will take your data also and then start consuming and then using that data, right? So how do you manage all these?
Absolutely. And in terms of facts and figures, the facts and figures that you've added on to probably interpret the report can be used as a data point for some other person giving another prompt, which obviously is a risk that we are speaking about. Of course, Indrajit, you've highlighted the risk of the large language models being trained on a certain data set. And within that, there's an Oxford study that says that most of the GPT models are actually trained on Western data sets. And when we use it in our region, especially in South Asia, the ethics part of it or the regional aspect of it is all neutralized because most of the data sets that these models have been trained on are Western. So there is no connection to the kind of diversity that our region has. Some of the sensitivities that our region has and the Western region doesn't, and these outputs generated by these ChatGPT models or the other GPT models are basically more Western in nature and not to the tune of what our consumption is. So that's again a risk.
That, there could be a lot of data bias.
Absolutely, there is a lot of data bias that exists there. And while we are here, and I see a view on the clock that we have a few minutes left, so very quickly, I'd like to take 60 seconds with each one of you to address the next level that we are going to probably reach with generative AI. And with the intersection of generative AI and innovation together, which is where we're discussing this, over the next 5 to 10 years, what potential breakthroughs do you perceive?
Let me, I was sharing this in the roundtable also. I was talking of what is called these technology couples, right? That is, two technologies or more combined together can have a very, very disruptive potential. Let me talk of three technology couples where generative AI is involved. Generative AI plus 3D printing. 3D printing has also been a technology which has not really got productionized or commoditized for a long time, right? But assuming that generative AI can give you a lot of, very innovative designs in terms of maybe automotive components, it can give you some very designs which the human brain cannot really think of, right? It is able to generate a design, but today, with the conventional manufacturing, you're not able to manufacture that, right? But there are constraints in the conventional, traditional manufacturing in terms of tolerances and so on. So if you combine these two technologies, you have, I mean, I'm just kind of painting the future to say, will products undergo a significant change because of these designs undergoing major changes, right? Then generative AI, second ones, generative AI with quantum computing. We are not there yet still. 3 years maybe down the line, right? Once you have quantum computing with generative AI, I really can't imagine where technology is going to lead us. Whether it's going to be negative effect, positive effect, because all your 128-bit encryption and all that will go for a toss with this kind of the compute power. The second one. The third one is generative AI plus digital core. That is, we spoke about this. I have a generative AI layer on top of my digital core. And that can deliver, as I said, significantly different ways of we doing business. In terms of decision making we spoke about, in terms of a knowledge management system, right? In terms of product designs, wow. So these, I think, the future is exciting with newer technologies coming, which can be very, very disruptive as we move forward. And that's the forecast I'm giving for 5, 8, 10 years from now.
Brilliant.
Okay, so since we have focused much on corporates, so I would like to take you through different different segment where how we can use generative AI for social well-being, right? Which anyway impacts for the country's economy as well. If we can, I would prefer if we can develop a social listening tool where we can defeat racism, right? So especially when I was working for my previous company, there was, you all know that the East attack has happened. And because of the pressure groups, because of the campaigns ran by pressure groups, the general public stopped purchasing any of the products from the companies owned by Muslims. So that is unnecessary. So how we can get these things in advance and act on this? Because anyway, that impacts the country's economy, right, as well. So that is where we have to head into. So that's what my understanding is. So that's what I would like to go in. And also from the other part, so that digital supply chain and also the predictive analytics also one would be a key thing where, predictions need to be done. If we know what are the, what are the products that we need to develop and what quantity of products are going to be sold. So then we can recraft or rework on our strategy and work for the future. So that is what I would think will happen.
Brilliant. So using these models more to a predictive analytics side of things. That's quite brilliant.
Yeah, I want to add another technology to the technology stack he mentioned, the advancements in the bioinformatics, whereby the implants and I've seen a demonstration where they're trying to predict and not predict, they're trying to map your thoughts. So when you bring these two technologies and quantum computing, generative AI, I mean, we may see a scenario where we all are connected through the implants. I know it looks like science fiction, but in our lifetime we might see that because we are still in the infant stages of generative technologies.
No, absolutely.
This is very much possible with Elon Musk's Neuralink. And,
yes, it is. And I'm not sure. How many fans of the Marvel Comics universe here? MCU fans? Yeah, I can see a few hands go up. Well, the reason I'm asking you this question is because what Indrajit mentioned is science fiction. A few years ago, I don't know how many of you are fans of Iron Man within, the MCU, but Iron Man has his conversations with Jarvis, which is artificial intelligence. Conversational AI is something that we saw 12 years ago in the Iron Man movies. We're seeing conversational AI in action through these GPT models right here. So that's the power of this changing technology that we're all witnessing. It's just not speaking to us right now, but very soon that's also going to happen.
Yes, because GPT-4 got what they announced, that they got the vision and the speech capabilities.
Absolutely. So GPT is coming up with those speech capabilities. So each one of us who are building Stark enterprises for the future, your Jarvis is getting ready. Well, to that, ladies and gentlemen, a few minutes on the clock, so I'm going to open it up for questions and answers or comments, if any. Yes, please. Can we have the mic brought forward?
Anand Herath, CIO of Paradise Science Group. Just a question to you on using generative AI for making predictions, for instance, sales. I believe we should...
If you could just hold the mic a little closer.
Yes. I believe we could use AI to assist us, and we should not entirely depend on it, as I think somebody on the panel commented. So any thoughts on that? This is about making predictions. How best could we use generative AI for that?
Yeah, so predictive analytics is anyway there, and currently also there are models running on, right? So there are companies who are running predictive analytics for MRP and also to predict the next month or next 3 months production or whatever, right? Yes. So that is fine. But from process simplification point of view, as an example, what I can say is now, there are areas where we don't have solutions, right, at the moment. I'll take one simple example, right? So basically the work handover due to employee turnover. Yes. We are talking about tacit knowledge, keeping the tacit knowledge. So we are investing much on employees who has this tacit knowledge. Yes. So now AI can be used for that area as well, where tacit knowledge will not depend on people. So that also will anyway depend on AI. And also the other part, that work handover thing, where we can, what if a digital assistant is there to assist you once you have joined with the company, rather than a person. So that is one area where anyway we are working on some solutions as a company. Also, as a company, we are working on such kind of solutions as well. So in near future, those kind of things will become a reality.
Just one more question rising out of that. Now, the more data we have, the better our predictions would be. But unfortunately, now if you take Sri Lanka, for instance, we had Easter attacks in, I suppose, 2019. Then also there was COVID and the economic downturn. So when you look at our data sets, we could be, we can't make predictions based on this, the last 2 or 3 years data, right? So maybe that's an area where AI could come in to make some corrections, right? Any comments on that?
Yeah, so basically for predictive analytics, 2-3 years data is not enough. Yes. So because, especially in Sri Lanka, last year there was a recession, and also 2 years back, again there was a recession due to these East attacks. So there are, that at least we should have, 10 to 15 years data, because then, if the data set is higher, so then the quality is also becoming high. Absolutely. So without having at least 5 to 6 years data, I think predictive analytics will not be possible.
All right. Thank you very much.
I think, no, so I think we wanted to add something to the predictive analytics.
No, just to add, while today predictive analytics is very extensively used by the airline industry and so on. But I think I just wanted to bring a softer aspect to this. For predictive analytics to be successful, I think there is a culture change and a mindset change that requires to be driven in the organization, right? And why I'm saying this is, we humans, we generally have this, you go to an astrologer and then show your hand, and he will ask you, Pratik, to, you will ask him to look at your whatever, right? And then predict the future. And he'll say, wow, what a wonderful future you've got. You're going to get a H-1B visa, US car. You will settle down in the US with a green card. You will also become an American citizen. You will feel damn happy. And you will completely believe what that fellow has predicted. You will not question that. But when a system is giving you predictions based on science, based on tested algorithms, people generally take it with a pinch of salt sometimes. Hey, what is this giving? Oh, your system is wrong here, right? So that is, I think, a change which needs to be driven.
That's quite a good anecdote.
So because highly paid occupations currently, which are highly paid occupations, will not be there in the future because of AI.
Absolutely, unless they change their skill set to modify to the current scheme of things. Well, that's a brilliant conversation that we've had. I'd like to thank each one of you gentlemen for your inputs to that conversation and leaving so much food for thought on the table for all of us to take away from here. Thank you.